Did you miss me?
The Man-at-Arms is the quintessential duelist of Chivalry 2, with access to a series of useful one-handed weapons and a fairly powerful off-handed tool. It performs amazingly in one-on-one engagements. Today, we're going to go over every aspect of this subclass in depth to leave you with all the information you need to cheese your ways to victory. Let's get started. The Man-at-Arms is a footman. This means you're perfectly balanced. Your armor is higher than the Vanguard, but lower than the Knight. Your speed is faster than the Knight, but slower than the Vanguard. This has you tanking kicks, jabs, and low damage bladed weapons a little more than the Vanguard, while also keeping some of your mobility compared to the Knight. You are, however, susceptible to the damage bonuses of chop and blunt weapons to make up for the boost in health. Not as much as the Knight, but enough to matter. The Man-at-Arms has a kit that focuses on higher speed but low range versions of existing weapons. The kit includes one unique weapon, which of course is not the quarterstaff, even though he literally had it in Civ 1. Oh my god, Tornbetter, how could you mess this up? Your primary weapons consist of the sword, an all-rounder type weapon with good speed, decent damage, okay range, and satisfactory combos. Definitely not the flashiest, but there are a few situations where it's a bad pick. The Morning Star. My personal favorite, this weapon's a harder hitting one-handed version of the Heavy Mace. It has similar damage at the cost of range and dragability, but it has a special that's oh so satisfying, and those hit stop combos are nothing to whine about either. The Falchion, a slower, shorter version of the sword that packs a greater punch. The Falchion is definitely underrated, with the best of its users considering it a mini messer with how surprising the heavy attacks can be. The One-Handed Spear. Arguably your best option. This weapon has only slightly smaller range than the spear, but is much faster and has similar damage. Its special is also insanely powerful, and when combining that with a shield, you're almost unstoppable. There's a reason this thing is soft banned in competitive play. The Rapier, everyone's most hated weapon. This thing attacks insanely fast and has incredibly difficult to see animations while still maintaining a fair amount of damage on the heavy attacks. Combine that with great footwork, and you're bound to be a nightmare in the duel yard. But don't expect it to do well in those group fights. And lastly, the Heavy Cavalry Sword. With more range than the longsword and great drags at the cost of high damage, this weapon is quite viable in team fights. It even has unique attacks when used on horseback, along with a special attack that seems always longer than it should be. Compared to the Pullman, your secondaries are much more viable. They're basically a second primary as far as I'm concerned. Starting with the weakest option, the knife. The knife is arguably one of the worst weapons in the game, but if you find yourself getting disarmed, it's better than nothing. The axe, a meteor option with fast attacks. This is a one-handed variant of the battle axe, but to be honest, it feels like a straight upgrade. While it doesn't hit quite as hard, it shares a similar range and is much faster. The short sword, a faster, shorter version of the sword. While it may be worse overall, lightning-fast accelerations will totally trip up even the best of players in heated moments. And it acts as a great complement to the Morning Star or one-handed spear. Lastly, the mace. Essentially a copy of the Morning Star, this alternative version has a slightly faster stab at the cost of combo speed and special attack damage. But for the majority, you're bound to not even notice the difference. Lastly, the Man-at-Arms Tertiary. You have the selection of two shields. The medium shield can be paired with any one-handed weapon in your kit, and will provide significant stamina drain negation at the expense of its own durability. The shield has 350 HP, but does not take bonus damage from chop or blunt weapons. After all of the shield's durability is depleted, it'll be broken and cannot be restored. even using ammo boxes. However, shield durability can be conserved by using counters, which don't consume any shield durability whatsoever. You can also place the shield on your back and take it out whenever you see fit. The medium shield also passively protects against all arrows, projectiles, and throwables, even when placed on your back. It'll even stave off a ballista bolt, although this will fully consume the shield's durability. When it comes to arrows, the shield is a beast. Using the actual block button will increase the shield's hitbox against arrows, offering somewhat of an arrow force field, at least facing forward. Regarding the light shield, you'd be trading durability for movement speed and jab damage, with both of those scaling up. Finally, the Man-at-Arms is able to assist his team with his unique class item which holds multiple charges, the Bandage Kit, an oddly packaged bundle of healing that can be thrown at any ally in need, slowly regenerating their health back to full. The Bandage Kit is one of the most unique class items in Chivalry 2, holding multiple charges which can be stored for later use up to 3 kits at once. When a Bandage Kit has been charged, and an ally is in need of healing, an indicator will appear above their head, but you can also just target anyone who's bloody. Although, pay attention, as you don't want to target allies who have already bandaged themselves, or are about to, with healing. While this will increase the rate at which they can regenerate health, generally it's wasteful, as that kit could have been used to heal an ally who ran out of bandages, or is in the middle of combat. The Bandage Kit can also be used to revive downed players and will even continue to heal them once they've gotten up. It's much faster to do this than to revive them manually and then heal them afterwards. This class item is not all that powerful, but in the hands of someone who can properly utilize the Bandage Kit, especially in a tight-knit squad, they can be a lifesaver. If the Warhorn is a large burst of healing all at once, the Bandage Kits are less impactful but more sustained healing over time. Overall, the Man-at-Arms kit is a focused set of primaries and secondaries that complement each other well, tied together with a powerful offhand item that allows you to dominate any one-on-one engagement. When it comes to class abilities, the Man-at-Arms is capable of the Sprint Charge. I won't go too in-depth on Sprint Charge as I already have in a previous video which I'll link in the above card, but in short, the Sprint Charge is an attack where the player rushes forward with their weapon in front of them, dealing massive damage which can be charged up by running at full sprint. Sprint charging with Man-at-Arms is decent enough, but since he lacks the increased Sprint Charge damage passive that Pullman has, it isn't recommended to spam it. It would be better to utilize your passive, Medic, which allows you to build up charges for your Bandage Kit by healing and reviving players. This encourages you to use your Bandage Kits on others who aren't yourself, as well as to revive teammates. The more people you save, the more Bandage Kits you'll build up to save even more. As an added bonus, the Man-at-Arms has a 10% increased strafing speed with a 50% decreased dodge cooldown. These two passives combined allow for the Man-at-Arms to be a god tier subclass for those who have exceptional footwork. It cannot be exaggerated how valuable the decreased dodge cooldown is in particular. It allows for so much more freedom of movement in 1vx situations, along with the shield to make up for increased stamina consumption. This subclass is truly a specialized beast. Being a Man-at-Arms, you're a mix between a support class and a flanker. Your weapons don't have the range or stopping power to support the front line in any meaningful way. Your health isn't large, and your shield is only really good for small, isolated engagements. Do your best to fight in isolated skirmishes outside of the front line, in smaller battles off to the side with fewer players that are less dense. Your goal is to use your superior speed and kit to swiftly take down individuals one at a time, without overextending unless you see a flanking opportunity. But in the event that you do overextend, or if you happen to find a player that's simply or better, you can use your shield to level the playing field or overwhelm your opponent with a massive stamina advantage and the increased jab damage. Once you charge up your Bandage Kits, prioritize heals on those who are lowest, and be sure to maintain awareness of who's already regenerating health so as to not waste your charges. Be sure to also target any downed teammates, as it saves a lot of time to heal and revive them in one fell swoop. If you're paying attention, you can revive a teammate right as he goes down to save him from being finished off by the enemy. Get back up, man. When it comes to utilizing your shield, don't think of it as a realistic shield. The shield is more of a temporary power-up, which I actually refer to as the bubble. When you aren't in any danger, and you think you can handle yourself well, I would have the shield on your back so as to not waste it. When you're placed in a 1vx situation, Or if you're up against an opponent you aren't confident that you can defeat, pull out the shield and overwhelm them quickly with your significant stamina advantage. Overall, the Man-at-Arms is a capable subclass with a great assortment of one-handed weapons. It's unfortunately held back by its inability to assist the front line, but I believe that it still performs well. For these reasons, I consider the Man-at-Arms B tier on offense and C tier on defense. Now you're ready to support the team. Go on and save your team, you doob.